Have you ever had one of those mornings where you wake up and the house feels a little too quiet? You brew your cup of tea, sit by the window, and scroll through a few photos or watch the birds flutter by, but something inside feels off. Not sad, necessarily, just a little empty, a little quiet, a little lonely. If that's something you've felt lately, or even if it creeps in once in a while, you're not alone. In fact, loneliness after 65 is one of the most common and least talked about challenges we face as we get older. Kids grow up and move out, friends relocate or become busy, retirement shifts our routines. Suddenly the days feel longer and connections feel fewer. But here's the good news. That feeling, it doesn't have to stay. There are small, powerful things you can do each day that can gently shift the way your life feels, from quiet and isolated to joyful and connected again. Not through big, dramatic changes, but through little, daily habits that truly make a difference. So today, I want to talk to you like a friend. Let's sit down together and go over 5 of those habits. Simple things you can start doing today that will help ease loneliness and bring more joy into your life. Whether you live alone or with someone, whether you're naturally social or a bit more private, these habits are for you. Let's start with something deceptively simple. Speaking to one new person a day. I know, easier said than done, right? But I'm not talking about making a new best friend or striking up a deep conversation with a stranger in a cafe. I mean a small, everyday interaction. Saying hello to your neighbor as they water their garden, asking the cashier how their day is going, chatting with the mail carrier for a minute or two. What happens when we do this, even briefly, is that our brains start to light up in ways that mimic deeper social connection. A smile, eye contact, a few kind words. It might not seem like much in the moment, but these tiny exchanges build a sense of belonging and emotional connection. Over time, they can snowball into more meaningful friendships. They remind us that we're part of the world, that we matter, and that others see us too. I once spoke with a woman who started painting at 68. She had never picked up a brush before. She just thought, why not? At first she was nervous. The colors were wrong. The lines were wobbly. But slowly she found her rhythm. She began to feel joy again, deep joy, every time she sat down to paint. Not because anyone else praised it, but because she was creating. She was expressing. And that gave her days meaning. Creating gives your soul something to chew on. It brings your past, your present, and your future into one place, whether or not you share it. What matters is that you're doing it, that you're showing up for yourself. And here's the best part. You don't need to start big. You can begin by journaling for 10 minutes in the morning, or pulling out that old recipe box, or sketching with a pencil on scrap paper. You'll be amazed at how purpose blooms when creativity is invited in. So far, we've talked about building rhythm through connection and unlocking meaning through creation. And if either of those ideas sparked something in you, hold on to it. That's the feeling we're after. That little flicker of, maybe I could? That's your inner spark speaking up. Listen to it. It's been waiting. Because what you're feeling, this desire for more than just passing the time, it's not a problem. It's a gift. It's your next chapter calling. It's a strange thing, isn't it? How we spend our younger years dreaming about retirement, about all that free time, the slower mornings, the rest. But when it finally arrives, it doesn't always feel the way we imagined. Sometimes it feels like we've stepped off a moving train. And now we're standing still, wondering what to do with all this space. But here's the truth. That space isn't empty. It's open. And the beauty of it is, you get to choose how to fill it. Not with noise or busy work, but with something that truly matters to you. One of the most powerful ways to do that is to mentor someone. You don't need to be a professor, a coach, or an expert in anything formal. You just need life experience. And guess what? You have plenty. You've lived, you've made mistakes, you've learned lessons, you've faced hardships, found joy, lost people, started over. And there are so many people out there, young people especially, who are desperate for guidance. even if they don't know how to ask for it. You might mentor a grandchild or a neighbor. You might volunteer at a local school, help someone learn how to budget, or even join a community program where seniors mentor youth. But it could be even simpler than that. Maybe it's a younger person at your church who needs advice, or a friend's adult child going through a tough time. Maybe it's just being available, listening, sharing your story. The act of passing something on, wisdom, encouragement, time, reminds you that your life has value beyond your own experience, that your purpose isn't just about you, it's about what you can give. And don't worry about having the right answers. Most of the time, people don't need answers. They just need to feel like someone understands, like someone's walked the road before them and made it through. That alone can be life-changing, not just for them, but for you. There's something deeply affirming about knowing you've helped someone else find their way. It grounds you. It reminds you that even now, especially now, you still matter. Now let's talk about something a little lighter, but just as transformative: making joy a priority. And yes, I mean that literally. Put it on your calendar. You see, when we're working or raising a family, joy often happens by accident. A funny moment, a trip, a celebration. But in retirement, we have to intentionally create those moments, because without structure, the days can blur. And when joy isn't planned, it can quietly fade into the background. So ask yourself this: what lights you up? What makes you feel silly or alive or peaceful? Maybe it's music, dancing in your kitchen to old favorites. Maybe it's walking barefoot on the grass or watching a sunset with no distractions. Maybe it's calling someone you haven't spoken to in years just to laugh and remember. Whatever it is, schedule it, not as an afterthought, but as a priority. Like an appointment with your own happiness. When you treat joy as something deserving of your time, you begin to shift your entire outlook. You go from waiting for something good to happen to creating it. And that's where purpose lives, in choosing again and again to fill your life with things that make your spirit feel awake. I once met a man in his 70s who scheduled what he called joy hours 3 times a week. Tuesdays were for fly fishing, even if he didn't catch a thing. Fridays were for classic comedies and popcorn. Sundays, he baked something new, half of it for him, half to give away. And he told me, "Those are the hours that keep me young, not in my body, but in my heart." And that's what we're really talking about here. Purpose isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, gentle. It's the way you look forward to something, the way you wake up with a little bit more light inside. So if you've been feeling bored, unmotivated, or a little lost, start there. Pick one small thing that brings you joy and schedule it like it matters, because it does, because you do. And here's the beautiful thing. When you combine joy with rhythm, creation, mentorship, you begin to form a life that doesn't just pass the time, it fills the time. And slowly, that feeling of retired but bored turns into something else entirely. A life that feels rich. A life that feels on purpose. We've covered a lot so far, small but powerful ways to bring meaning back into your days. But there's still one more shift that ties it all together. One last habit that, once in place, can turn retirement into one of the most deeply satisfying chapters of your life. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that comes with age, a knowing, a deeper understanding that life isn't about how much we accomplish, but how deeply we live. And that brings us to the final habit, the one that ties all the others together, the one that may seem the smallest but holds the most powerful shift. It's this: start every day with intention, not with a to-do list, not with worry, but with a question. A simple one. What can I do today that makes this day meaningful? You see, in the rush of our younger years, our days were often shaped by necessity, by the alarm clock, the job, the errands, the deadlines. But in retirement, we finally have space to design our time, and that freedom is a gift, but only if we use it on purpose. When you wake up and ask yourself that question, you're setting a tone. You're reminding yourself that this day is yours, to shape, to enjoy, to contribute to in a way that matters. Some days the answer might be, call my sister. Other days it could be, sit in the garden and truly notice everything. Or maybe it's as simple as, be kind to myself today. The point isn't how big the task is, it's the intention. Because purpose doesn't require a packed schedule. It requires presence. It requires that we move through the day not just as a routine, but as a choice. And here's the beautiful part. When you practice this habit, even on the quiet days, the slow, ordinary, uneventful ones, you'll begin to notice something. They're not so ordinary after all. That warm cup of tea becomes a moment of peace. That small walk becomes a meditation. That chat with the neighbor becomes connection. All because you decided that today mattered. And if that ever feels hard, if you ever wake up and feel that weight again, that ache of, what's the point? I want you to remember this. You've already lived through so much. You've faced storms. You've loved and lost. You've risen and fallen and risen again. That strength, that resilience, it didn't disappear when you stopped working. It became deeper. So now you get to use it, not just to survive, but to thrive. To shape each day in small and meaningful ways with the quiet confidence that you are still becoming. You are not finished. You are still writing your story. Let's take a moment to breathe that in. You are still becoming. And it doesn't take huge achievements or grand reinventions to feel purposeful. It just takes showing up for yourself, for others, for each day. So as we wrap this up, let's reflect for a moment. You've learned that becoming someone's regular can create rhythm and connection. That creating, just for the joy of it, can awaken your inner spark. That mentoring isn't about teaching, but about being there for someone who needs your wisdom. That scheduling joy isn't selfish, it's sacred. And now that starting each day with intention doesn't require doing more. It simply means choosing more consciously. If just one of those habits speaks to you, start there. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't even have to do it perfectly. Purpose doesn't live in perfection. It lives in practice. And if this video made you feel seen or helped you feel even a little more hopeful about this chapter of life, I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments. What small shift are you going to try? What brings you purpose? Maybe your comment will inspire someone else watching, someone who needs the courage to start. If you found value in this video, please give it a like. It really helps our channel grow and reach others who may be feeling exactly like you. And if you want more uplifting, practical content like this, be sure to subscribe and join our community. You're not just a viewer here, you're part of something. Remember, retirement isn't the end of your story. It's a new chapter, one where you decide the pace, the meaning, the joy. So here's to slow mornings, to deep conversations, to spontaneous laughter, to trying new things, giving freely, receiving fully, and living on purpose, one beautiful day at a time. You are not too old, it is not too late, and you are most certainly not done. Here's to finding your purpose and feeling alive again.